We really have to balance things. Sometimes I'm thinking about how do I make money, and then I realize, okay, but how do I remember that I really love this work and I want to keep going? And then when that happens, it's like, okay, but I came into this profession to be healed, maybe, or to heal others, and but the world isn't as pure as and so everything that's happening on the outside world, it does seep into our profession as well.
Welcome to In Sync, a podcast about the lives we all want to really live and figuring out how to get there. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. Today, we will be getting in sync with our inner selves with the help of our latest guest and exploring the intersections of our various roles and identities in our well-being journey. Rahma Uneeb introduces herself as a mind alchemist, a generational healer, and a dream weaver. Her work as a counselor and wellness practitioner, along with a focus on Islamic psychotherapy, aims at creating safe spaces, and for desi women in particular. With her experience in various modalities to support her clients and help them move forward in their wellness journey, we thought it would be interesting to delve into her mind and look at how faith and wellness intersect, seeing what life looks like from the perspective of someone who aims to help others be the best version of themselves. Rahma, we are so excited to have you here today and be talking about everything that you've been doing.
Thank you, Anmol. Thanks for having me. And I think just hearing that made me realize that so much of my work is about my personal journey and about how I've struggled as a Desi woman navigating society and how much that's played a role in my work and journey.
I think that's so important to hear because so many of us in this day and age, we're so career oriented and so hustle culture oriented that sometimes I think we forget to look at really what drives us and how we connect to our work. Don't you think that?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I think hustle culture has really taken over generally as a society, and it's surprising that it's actually not surprising, but it also impacts us as counselors, as wellness practitioners, and we really have to balance things. Sometimes I'm thinking about how do I make money, and then I realize, okay, but how do I remember that I really love this work and I want to keep going? So it is sometimes challenging, but also learning in terms of how we can stay grounded and true to ourselves and find our place in a world which is constantly changing.
Yeah, and I think that can be so difficult with how fast-paced the world is. And your work in particular is so complex, right? It's your identity, it's other people's identity. But I think just to start us off with, getting into the nitty-gritty of your work, I think all our audiences would want to know what gets you out of bed in the morning.
Okay. That's an interesting question because today I was just trying not to get out of bed because just the only thing that actually was able to get me out of bed was this podcast. And so these are the type of things that do get me excited. But because there's so much burnout in our profession, and generally, I think with that fast-paced hustle culture, there's just so much happening that there are like weeks where I'm just in bed and I feel like I don't want to get out. But then what is it that makes me want to come out of bed? And that's a separate conversation, right? Like sometimes you do need to just rest and sleep in. And that is a different type of self-care. But then there's a type of sleeping where you don't have anything to look forward to. And I can tell that I am not motivated these days by how much I'm sleeping, because when I am motivated and I have something to look forward to, I'm getting out of bed, I'm jumping into the next project, and so I can feel it. It's about having something that really lights up your soul. I think so many of us, we are running after superficial goals and they don't really light us up inside. They don't align with what we want. They're not actually aligned with our greatest gifts. They're not speaking to our inner self, and we just keep trudging along and we don't listen to those signals that we need to leave this job, we need to start this project, we need to sort of apply here and there. And so when we do listen to those internal signals, we're more excited, we're more in tune, we're sort of letting life unfold and doing things that are completely outside of our comfort zone. I think that's what gets me out of bed most days.
I love that. And I love that you've acknowledged that the reasons aren't the same every day, right? Otherwise, life can
Yeah.
get so monotone. And it's so easy for us to look at Instagram and look at successful people who are, and I say successful with quotes because success can mean different things,
Yeah.
and see, oh, I want to live their life. And they look so motivated. And, I
Yeah.
felt that when I looked at your Instagram, I was like, oh my God, she's doing so much. So for you to say this, helps me. I think it helps people connect on a deeper level. Like, okay, there's days where you don't want to get out of bed in the morning either. I feel less bad about having those days now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's completely human to just be human, I guess, to not have it all figured out and to be uncertain about the next step. Like, for example, right now, what's present for me is that I've just completed my counseling training and I'm having these sort of doubts about whether I want to apply to a master's program or how that's going to unfold now at this point. But then it's also all of that self-doubt and all of that, I can't do it, and then sleeping in and then getting exhausted, and do I really want to be a therapist? So like those things, like normalizing that is part of all of our journeys. It's not as clear cut as we might think it is.
Definitely. I think there's so much gray area that we don't talk about and that social media doesn't talk about. But it's interesting when you say that, do I really want to be a therapist? And you work so much within the realm of emotional well-being, of mental well-being. How do you navigate your own mental and emotional wellness? How do you set boundaries for yourself? How do you understand, like, this is me pushing myself towards something better, and this is discomfort that I can overcome, and this is discomfort that will cause me pain?
So our work is, so here's the interesting thing, Anmol. Like, I think I really underestimated this career and what it would bring and how much of you it actually takes. And starting off, it was like this really childish dream that I had held on to. I want to be a therapist, that was what it was. And ever since I was 15. And now that it has sort of unfolded and I've gotten into the depths of, okay, there are times that your clients hate you. There are times that you will get death threats, and there are times that
Oh my God.
you will not be safe in your body and you will have to protect yourself. And there are times when your clients will manipulate you. And then when that happens, it's like, okay, but I came into this profession to be healed maybe, or to heal others, but the world isn't as pure as and so everything that's happening on the outside world, it does seep into our profession as well. And then all of a sudden it's like worrying about rent and worrying about business and inflation, and then it makes me really question whether that's something that is aligned with who I am. And then I have to keep reminding myself, but and it's okay. I think I'm letting myself have that moment of, because it's not the first time. I remember like having this moment last year where I was questioning whether I wanted to do this at all. But I think the deeper you go in, the more you realize that people are complex, and complex things happen everywhere in every profession, and you need to have the bandwidth and the energy and the toolkit to take care of yourself, because otherwise it's just a recipe for disaster and it's unsafe for the people that you're working with. So yeah, I really have to, I guess, for us, so I know that there are certain professions which are prone to burnout. Doctors, caregiving professions, they are prone to burnout, but then every profession will have its own challenges, their own things that they need to take care of. For example, if someone's from the tech industry, they have like long sittings, sitting in front of the computer, and so their burnout or their challenges, emotional challenges, will look completely different. For me, I think I have to take care of myself, because I just can't show up if I'm not, present. Sometimes it's like I am thinking that I'm not going to be 100% present all the time, uh, but at least I have enough energy to give something to, or to hold space for my clients. And sometimes I'm not in that space. Like for example, this week I was thinking that let me take this week off, and maybe that's what would be best. And coincidentally, my clients canceled on me this week, so I had time to just uh, be myself and take care of myself. But that can look like having a spa day. It can look like we really have to force ourselves in this culture to take care of ourselves. So it can be challenging. There are new roles that I have taken on, like I'm a new mom, so there's stuff that I need to figure out in therapy and journaling, and there are things that I need to keep on top of if I want to stay in this profession and if I want to stay sane and functioning.
Oh, that sounds like you have a lot on your plate, and it's really cool that you're able to identify where you need rest and where you can sort of push yourself. But I'm sure that it's not always easy, right? So what's the hardest thing you still have to navigate, especially with the multiple roles that you've been juggling?
I think it's the stress that of course, like with time you realize, okay, there are uncertain things, not everything is going to be figured out. But I'm at this crossroads once again where I'm just questioning, okay, what next? How do I do this? Where am I going? And that uncertainty at every single point. Like I remember, like during pregnancy, I just felt like I can't do it. I just can't be a mom. And now I'm on the other end and I'm doing it. And I think I'm doing okay. And I just keep questioning that, I wasted so much time being stressed. But I couldn't really, some things, some stress is understandable. Of course, it was a new journey for me, and I had attached a lot with motherhood. But stress is a big challenge, like not knowing what's next. And then I generally, everyone has a certain trigger. For me, it's chaos and unpredictability. And surprise, surprise, like the world we live in is unpredictable and chaotic. And motherhood is chaotic and unpredictable. And that is like my biggest trigger, the fact that, there's no fixed sleep time. There's no, even with other things that are happening, let's say there's traffic, there's, globally, whatever is happening, that can really put me off guard because I like things very structured. And I've worked a lot on it. I think I've learned to embrace that life is uncertain and there is a beauty in that. And there is a surrendering that takes us further than actually holding on really tightly. But that has been like a big challenge for me. I think just letting go of things, holding on to things really tightly, that has been the biggest learning for me this year, and generally all years actually.
Wow, honestly, the whole time you were speaking, I could literally feel myself feeling your emotions because I'm the same. Chaos, uncertainty, unpredictability, like it just gets me so stressed out, so riled up. And living in Karachi's traffic, you're always, everything in your life is uncertain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's something that takes getting used to, despite the fact that I've grown up here. But for some reason, my brain just never understands that I cannot work in half an hour brackets in my day. It's not going to happen.
For sure. So uncertainty, and I guess boundaries like are a big struggle because when you're empathetic, like with me, I pour so much out into my work, and then I feel like certain people do take me for granted, and they do, sometimes, let's say, time boundaries. Clients will like not pay on time, they'll not come on time, they'll sort of message me late hours. There's going to be stuff on my Instagram where they're just pouring their heart out, and I just can't hold space for that. So those boundaries, that is something I am really struggling with, but I'm also getting better at it because I can't hold space for myself and for other people if I don't have those things and checks and balances in place.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think with so many people I know in the well-being space, there's this expectation, especially within our desi communities, because boundaries are, not understood, that,
Yeah.
oh, this person is a therapist, this person is a counselor. Let me just tell
Yeah.
them all the issues I have and
Yeah.
expect them to fix it. And I'm sure that, I can't even imagine that must get absolutely exhausting.
For sure. Because it's like sometimes, because I read all of the messages and then, of course, we absorb the emotions and then I think about it. And then there's so much I'm already doing with clients and my friends and my family and myself and my community. So then I'm thinking that there needs to be some protocol where I am able to honor what they're bringing in, but at the same time also honor what my capacity is. So that doing justice to both.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that you probably had to set up really early on in your career. And I think that's something everyone else needs to understand as well. But speaking of clients, one thing that I found really interesting about your work that we don't see in Pakistan, or I think even in South Asia a lot, is that you focus on Islamic psychotherapy, right? So what made you want to work within the intersection of faith and well-being? Because even within a lot of religious spaces, we don't see this intersection being talked about or being explored as much as perhaps I think I would like it to, or a lot of other people would like it to happen.
So when I was when I say this journey has been a personal journey, it's been a struggle of mental illness on my end. And so a lot of what has brought me into this work has been about discovering what tools work for me, how much therapy, everything has been about figuring out how I can get out of depression, how I can navigate anxiety, and I've had patches where it's been really bad, and so I remember being at Quran class in one. I don't remember the exact year, but it was Ramadan, and I was sitting, and I had not slept. Fasting was very difficult. I was really struggling that year, and the lecturer had said something about anxiety and depression being about not praying and not reading Quran, and that just got me really on edge. And I wrote an entire piece on it later on, and I also remember saying out, okay, there is a psychological, medical reason that these conditions happen. So yes, this intersection about spirituality is important, but then we can't make these uninformed comments. And I don't know if she understood what I was saying, but unfortunately that made me really question how we can actually marry these two paradigms together, and if there was a way to marry them. And quite honestly, it's a disservice that we've done to the Muslim community by telling them that they don't need the help, that they don't need to go to a doctor, they don't need to go to a psychologist, they don't need to go to a therapist. And then I started realizing that there was the other spectrum where it was like, we don't need religion at all, we don't need spirituality, there's no soul, it's all about the mind, it's all about biology. So that was just getting me in a really uncomfortable place, and I wanted answers to my own journey and a lot of questions that people around me were asking as well. And I started studying and picking up books, but unfortunately at the time there was not enough literature. There was not enough work being done on Islamic psychotherapy. It was just, if you are unwell, that means you're not praying enough. So it wasn't an acknowledgement of, oh, you can have all of these illnesses and it could be a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there all of these incidences of sadness in our scripture, in our tradition, that no one was really talking about. So gradually I also started making my own resources, my own Ramadan planner, started writing a lot on Ramadan and the intersection, and I started realizing that people are actually struggling with this. And then, there was more writing, there was more discovery. Then I did find that people were working in this area much more. And gradually there were more paradigms and frameworks being developed. And they're still sort of in their baby phase, but they've done a lot of good work. And so training in that, and then just reading more books are out there now, more literature, more research studies. And that has really changed the game. It is so heartening to see that people talk about it, people see the intersection, people have that balance. And I guess now personally where I'm at, I have started realizing in my work that a lot of what we're doing is connecting a person to their self, a self that is untainted from trauma, from their parts. And that self is actually, the way I see it, connected with, the truest nature, fitra, which is the Arabic term for it. And that is pure, and it has a connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the closer we are to it, the closer it feels we are to our truest nature. And I started realizing that actually that self, when we're connected to it, that self is playful, it is creative, it knows what to do, it's aligned. And so that is like an intersection that I've really, so I'm thinking of developing stuff on it as well, and then seeing what work is out there. But that is that really excites me.
I absolutely love that. I love how passionate you are about it. And I love the fact that you called that lecturer out. I think it's so important to start doing that, and I understand the need for respect for teachers as well. There's obviously, I'm not advocating being disrespectful to any teacher. But like you said, it's important to create that space for yourself and hold space for what you need, right? And this is what a lot of Muslims do need, creating this space.
For sure. Out there, a lot of clients that I have are struggling with sexual health issues and sexual assault, and there is a really good speaker out there who talks about this, and there was no conversation on this as well, right? How you can navigate these sort of struggles and these taboo topics. So जो भी taboo topics हैं वो अब लोग explore कर रहे हैं from an Islamic lens, which makes it really heartening.
Yeah, definitely. And on that note, just taking a minute to point out that anyone who's listening to this conversation, if you have been struggling with your faith and your mental health or your emotional well-being, I would really recommend looking at Dr. Rania Awad's work. She works at Maristan organization and also the Muslim Mental Health Institute at Stanford. All of that will be linked in the bio below. Just wanted to make sure if anyone who's listening to this podcast feels like this brought up some feelings that they want to address, these resources are always there. And we will be putting down some resources for both Rahma's work and other resources that you can reach out to if you feel like you need help. Please do reach out and do talk about it for anything that you need. And just know that you are really not alone. There are communities there who can support you and who are doing the work that you need and I need to create healthier communities and healthier selves around us. So I know this has gotten a little bit heavy, but I know it's also super important. And I think with everything that you said about creating space and acknowledging your boundaries and the challenges that come with that, what would your advice be to someone who would approach you and say, you know what, I want to take all of this in mind, I want to be more mindful, and I want to sort of slow down amidst this very fast online hustle culture world and really create space for these conversations?
Yeah, I think I would say take it easy. And with that I mean sometimes when we want to fix ourselves, and I'm using that word very consciously, we feel like we need to do all of these courses, and some people, they have this epiphany that now I want to change my life, I want to get into the world of self-development, and so they start binge reading all of these books and all of these things. And I just want to say, you have all of the resources, like you'll find all of the resources if you just connect with yourself. And that doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple. It can look like taking out more time for yourself. It can look like just pausing before you move into the next thing, you're transitioning into the next thing. It can look like, just relishing whatever you're eating, staying longer with your loved ones, noticing things a bit longer. And so just doing the tiniest next step that will bring you closer to yourself. And the self, as I defined it, is actually in its truest form. It will move you forward to goals and dreams that are aligned with a life that is worth living.
I love that advice. I am going to try and implement that, hopefully.
Yeah.
So after all this very serious conversation, I want to end with something a little bit on a lighter note. And I think I would just really love to know, what color do you see yourself as and why?
I'd say purple. I think I really love purple ever since I was a kid. And also my little one has been attracted to purple since she was really young. So I don't know if purple is my color. Yeah.
I love that. And purple is the color of royalty. So I think it's a good color to be associated with.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine would be teal.
Okay.
Because blues and greens are calm, but they're also a little bit fun. And I think I
Yes.
somehow veer between both, or at least I hope I do. I try to be fun. And I try to be calm as well.
Yeah, that's what matters. I love teal. I think teal is a really beautiful color. Like I've been wanting to paint my walls teal. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good color to have on your interiors.
For sure.
So Rahma, thank you so much for everything that you've shared and for being so open during this conversation. It was such a pleasure to speak to you. And I think I've learned so much from you, and our listeners will have learned so much from you. And for anyone who is interested in seeing Rahma's work further, we will be linking everything down in the bio below, so you can reach out to her. She does journaling workshops, and she has a lot of other cool stuff going on that you can be a part of. And I think some of your stuff is remote as well. Am I correct? Can people join in from anywhere they are?
Yes. A lot of stuff is remote. Yes.
Okay, so that's great. So regardless of where you are in the world, you can benefit from her work. Rahma, thank you so much for being here with us today. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you, Anmol, for having me, and looking forward to more of these conversations. Take care.
Definitely.